Good. How are you, sir?
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us today. This is episode 94 of Tech Sales Insights, and really psyched to have Matt Handler here today, who I've known for a while. He is president and COO of Coralogix, and definitely will have some fantastic insights. Our title topic today is creative lead generation and value selling, so something that's definitely very needed. We have as our sponsor Sendoso, who were an early adopter of and longtime customer of. Long story short, they're a fantastic gifting platform, and a lot of times people think of it as just swag, but the automation that they put into the CRM and everything else is amazing. And just to give you an idea, they had a recent round that the valuation was, I think, around 600 or 650 million. So certainly very effective and a lot more than just swag, and we'll talk about them in a little bit. Also, for those that are members of Sales Community, thank you so much. If you're not, go check us out. You can go to salescommunity.com, and you'll see on the top we have something summer free. So if you click on that, you can get a free year membership. So by way of background, Matt and I first met each other back in the HP days, which is probably going on 10 years ago or so now. He was a fantastic go-to-market exec with the HP networking business, and then did a lot of work on our global accounts, and has been very accomplished, has done a lot of amazing things over the years. And really, one of several things I've been impressed with is really his double or triple digit growth, not only in early stage companies, but also in large companies. Definitely great in terms of hiring and retaining and developing top talent, and growing and improving high performing teams. And for those that are not from Boston College, he went to Boston College. So it's been a while, I think, since we had a BC alum. And there you go. And he actually was part of the Presidential Scholars Program, which is basically like the best of the best and the smartest. And I think is probably one of the few or only that I actually know or met. He's also on several advisory boards for interests. He has if it's okay to say, a vineyard up in Napa. So obviously enjoys wine, and there's supposedly sheep and chickens there. And coincidentally, we've just figured out I'm going to be there for a board retreat this weekend. So I'm going to go by and see him Friday afternoon. Fabulous. So looking forward to that. And besides Napa, also lives in Austin. He's a fantastic husband and father, has two daughters, aged 28 and 26, even though he doesn't look that old. So definitely look forward to this. So let's jump into the questions here, Matt, and should be great. So from a selling perspective, you were first technology sales job with Cedar Computer, but you actually had some background in QVC and had a number one product on the Golf Channel or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lifetime ago, 30 plus years ago, which is crazy. But the first real tech job, I was hired just out of college to move to Los Angeles from the Midwest. I'm originally from St. Louis, and I didn't know what I didn't know. This is like 1991. 91, and it was selling HP for a reseller. And I was an SDR and an account executive. They paid me, I think, $300 a week, and then for 90 days, and then I was all commission. And what's interesting, I think, and germane, I don't talk about all this very often, but I had a great sales mentor when I was a young man, and I was fortunate. He ran the company, and the same kind of methodology and tips and tricks on outbound that we used to do in the old days in a very different medium with literal mail and phone calls and a pager.
Yeah.
Turns out it still works today. So I think that's kind of interesting as we're talking about outbound.
That's great. And then maybe just kind of quickly go through your career from there.
Oh, geez. Just been, started out as an individual contributor, ended up, being a VP of sales of that company. We sold it back in, I think we were HP's largest reseller in North America. Sold that in about 96-ish. Was fortunate to work for, as leasing became a thing with IT, we took a company public on the New York Stock Exchange back in 98, first bubble. Saw that one kind of, we got to about 2 billion in revenue. I was what was I? I think I was the president or something back then. And then just from there, got really inside where you and I kind of reconnected years later is on the reseller side. I did a lot of reseller sort of turnarounds and bringing them into the new generation. And, VP of sales, CRO, CEO of a very large Japanese company here in the States. I was on the board of this company and then came off the board in August of 20 to help run it because I thought we had something different.
Oh, that's great. So how did that work in terms of, for those interested, how do you kind of get on an advisory board? And then how did it work that then you actually end up going to work there?
It's interesting. The short answer is I think a lot of smart boards will bring people in as advisors and then try to lure them into the job. I mean, that's definitely something I've seen over the years, but I think, it goes with what I call key learnings, which is screw ups. You have to have a lot of key learnings. You have to screw up enough to get successful. And then honestly, if you can really prove that you can scale and execute, there are a lot of financial minded folks, and that's very much needed in our industry, but people that can execute and operate a business, which Randy was great at, is really important. So if you can show that you can operate and execute and drive at the end of the day, revenue and profit, people pay attention. And that's kind of how I got started. They wanted to bring me in as a go-to-market expert.
Oh, great. We actually last week had Kelly Wright, who's the president of Gong, and she was actually on the board. And then in a short period, Carl Eschenbach tells it really well. But they found that was their president was actually right around the table. So
interesting.
That does work out well. So tell us maybe a little bit about Coralogix, and maybe by way of intro, talk about the kind of observability platform space that you guys play in.
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't need to get on this too deeply because I know we want to talk about sales process and outbound and value selling, but Coralogix sits in the same space. It's the observability space, okay? So every single piece of infrastructure and application kicks off what we call digital exhaust, in the forms of logs and metrics and traces and telemetry data. And the key to observability really is being able to look across distributed architectures, especially in today's world, and understand where you've got performance issues, or if you have an issue, how do you identify and fix it? As everything has turned so digital, there's so much emphasis on applications, customer facing, running, a vast majority of the business. You don't want your customers to tell you something's broken. You want to know before and get as proactive as possible. And the issue for 25 years, Randy, back in the old days when we were working together, is the volumes and the velocity and the variety of all this digital exhaust is just insane. And it's growing so fast. It's actually growing faster than revenue at almost all companies. So we found a unique way to bring down the cost and be able to scale. And we've been validated by the market. We've got a couple thousand customers. We've only been in the market for a few years. The fastest growing company in the space, validated by the investment community. We've got about $250 million in cash. And we've been validated by the analysts. We got Gartner's highest rating and some others. I can't tell you another analyst that just became a customer today. But it's been a fun ride, and it's been fun taking something from a smaller size. I don't usually go Series B, but from Series B to Series D.
Awesome. And what about from a customer perspective, kind of who do you sell to? What's your ideal customer profile?
Yeah, it's interesting. We compete. I was a VP of sales at a company called Sumo Logic. I ran Splunk's largest global MSSP for a time. So those are the kind of Splunk, Sumo, homegrown elk stacks is the space. And Datadog is in there as well. The customers really changed a lot over the years. In the old days, these logs, as it first started out back in like 2002 with Senator McCain and Sarbanes-Oxley when it first started, they were really about compliance, and the security teams bought them, the CISOs of the world. But what's really transitioned, just as software has moved left, it's now DevOps, IT, directors, CIOs, and smaller companies, and SRE, site reliability engineers. So our ICP are these fast-growing companies, I'd say mid-size enterprise, 500 to 2,500. And then we also have a nice product-led growth business for smaller companies in that commercial space that they can sign up on their own. So it's really that mid-size enterprise. It's the SRE directors and leaders and DevOps directors, and actually the dev teams as well.
Great. So in that PLG space, then you'd have kind of individual contributors would sign up, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then is it something where you start, all of a sudden you have, 5, 10, 20 people, and then you see it might be a good size account. Then does that PLG turn into then kind of an enterprise sell?
So that's a great question. My very good friend, one of my best friends, is the chief product officer over at MongoDB, and he started out doing their Atlas program. Same thing, very much, crowdsourced, and then you bring it up to the enterprise. We're on that journey, but medium answer to your question, yes, that's the play there. It's a little more complicated than it sounds because you get a lot of individual contributors that use their own email addresses. It's hard to enrich that and connect the dots to the actual enterprise they work for. And sometimes, to be honest, they're not the decision makers most of the time, but right. They're a great coach. And what we do is we use them to get inside the organizations and work our way back around, bottoms up and top down.
Oh, awesome. And what about from a competitive perspective?
So we compete with Splunk a little bit. Splunk tends to operate in the really high enterprises and still has a lot of those CISO spends from the old days. We take them out all the time, but we tend to compete most directly with Datadog, Sumo Logic, homegrown Elastic stacks. That's the Elk stack that I spoke of. It's used to be open source, no longer open source, but that's kind of where our bread and butter is. And it's been really nice to see the adoption. We're number one in the market in customer satisfaction by a mile. And, it's funny, again, it doesn't really get into our topic, but really quickly for us, everyone already has a product and they have pain with it. It's expensive and it doesn't scale. So our focus is migrating them off a legacy and then being able to help them scale their business.
Oh, great. And with the kind of fundraising that you mentioned, I think Series D recently, 142 million, co-led by Brighton Park Capital, and then Advent International. Advent certainly a big dog, and I think based here in Boston. Yep. So, some of the uses of the money is helping to build out the platform, invest in customer support, R&D, but a big focus of it seems to be on expanding 10 or so new markets. Can you talk about that market expansion?
Yeah, it's interesting. I live and die, maybe to a fault, by the magic number, that ratio of sales and marketing expense to next quarter's revenue. I liked, a good company, this is, Matt Handler's opinion, but a good company is 0.75 ratio, ish. A bad example would be 0.5 or below, and 1 and above is kind of that magic number. And it's really important to us as a company. And again, these are my key learnings over the years of screwing things up. We're really trying to thread the needle of smart growth with our company, but not overgrowing and just trying to throw a bunch of salespeople to drive ARR that aren't really productive. And we're all about productivity and optimization. Yeah. So in our case, we've been very, I hope, smartly growing where we should. We started out with just Israel and India back in 19, 2 markets, 1 product, log analytics. And then we expanded to the States in August when I came off the board, and built out a full marketing team. We didn't have any of that. That's when we did our Series B. And then now over the last couple of years, as we've grown, we've got more products. So we've got the logs analytics that we started with. Now we have metrics, which competes directly with Datadog. We've got tracing and that New Relic kind of AppD Dynatrace space. And we've got a really cool security product because I believe every log, every bit of telemetry data is security. You got to know your attack vectors, coming from the security world. So
let me ask, so those kind of the 10 markets, are those product-based markets, or are they geography or industry or what?
Well, so now we've got these 4 products instead of 1. And so that's nice for our cross sell. But then what we wanted to do is expand our markets. So what we did was we opened up EMEA and we opened up the UK, and we've expanded in the United States. So now it's the US, the full US and the Americas. We've got LATAM and Canada. We've got the UK, and then we're in EMEA and Asia Pac.
Awesome. That's great. And so from those kind of the new markets, then you kind of are kind of already there. You've got that baseline, and you're just kind of looking to grow from that existing footprint.
It's interesting, in a brand new market, including the States, this is why outbound is so top of mind for me, and maybe getting back to our topic so I don't drive people crazy. For us, I kind of think of it as, you need to have some aerial assault from marketing. So you do ABM, really understand your ICP like we talked about, really understand your persona and your value prop. If you don't know your value, you can't succeed, right? So that connection between product and marketing is so key. If you don't have the real value identified, you're selling on features, and that doesn't work. So we do very specific digital ads and target specific personas and companies. Then we follow up with straight up outbound from our SDRs and our reps. Everybody here is an SDR, including me.